Introduction. Welcome to another slow descent into the strange and shadowed corridors of the past. Tonight, we won't walk the bloody battlegrounds of history. Instead, we'll follow a different kind of trail, one left by longing, a path lit not by torches, but by the soft flicker of temptation. Because sometimes the things that frighten us are also the things we want. Dracula is not only a monster, he is a mirror, and what he reflects back at us is far more than fangs or fog. He reflects our secrets, our repression, our yearning. In this episode, we'll slip gently into the silk-lined world of Gothic horror. Not to be frightened, but to observe, to understand why we are drawn, even to danger. We'll begin with the question so many readers never quite ask out loud. Why is Dracula so magnetic? Why does fear come laced with fascination? Let's begin with the Undead Allure. Segment 1. The Undead Allure. Imagine yourself in the world of Dracula, not as a hero or a victim, but simply as a witness, a distant observer in candlelight. He enters the room not with noise, but with presence. Silent, tall, glistening eyes that do not blink, hands that hover too long, words that linger like perfume. There is something unsettling, and yet impossible to turn away from. Dracula is not a creature that lunges. He waits, he invites, and that is part of the horror. In so many versions, he is draped in elegance, aristocratic, refined. He speaks in soft, measured tone. Pie's violence, when it comes, is intimate, almost tender. The vampire is not frightening because he storms the castle. He frightens because he's already inside the room, inside the mind, inside the body. There is something deeply sensual about the idea of being bitten. It is a violation, but also a surrender. The vampire does not kill with brute force. He seduces. He waits for an invitation, and then he takes. And perhaps that is why he is endured. Because he speaks to something that simpler monsters do not. Dracula, as a character, evokes the fear not just of harm, but of desire, of wanting something that may destroy you, being drawn to danger, of not knowing where the line is, between seduction and ruin. Be in a time when propriety ruled the surface of society. Dracula slipped beneath it. He exposed the deep wells of hunger, hiding beneath corsets and collars, the human longing to be overpowered, to lose control, to be consumed, not just by death, but by passion, by power, by release. His bite is not just a symbol of death. It is a symbol of intimacy, of transgression, of appetite. And so the allure of the vampire is not accidental. It is architectural, built into the myth from the very beginning. The creature who embodies both restraint and indulgence, and surrender, and that tension, that push and pull, is what makes him magnetic. He is terrified, not in spite of his elegance, but because of it, because part of you wants to run, and part of you doesn't. I can tell you how to. The world is changing. Electric lights flicker in the streets of London. Steam and steel stretch across the countryside. Science is advancing. Empires are expanding. And under it all, the tight corset of Victorian respectability strains against what it cannot name. By. This was a time of decorum, of buttoned collars and whispered euphemisms, but it was also a time of deep anxiety. The fear that beneath the polished surface of society, something wild and uncontainable was stirring. Dracula, published in that same year, became a vessel for those fears, but not in obvious ways. It's not just a horror story. It's a symptom. Let's begin with sex. Victorian England was famously repressive, at least on the surface. Women were expected to be pure, passive, and domestic. Men were expected to control their urges, to embody reason and reserve. And yet, the novel pulses with forbidden desire. Dracula's attacks are often framed like seductions. But there is breathless anticipation, flushed cheeks, murmured consent, or something very near it. When Lucy is bitten, it is not a violent act of mutilation. It is an intrusion that feels like awakening. Her body changes. She becomes more open, more expressive, more radiant. And in the world of the novel, that transformation is terrifying. Sexual expression is coded as possession. Liberation becomes monstrous. Damn. And the only way to save her is through destruction. It's a haunting metaphor, one that echoes through time. But it wasn't just desire that frightened the Victorians. It was disease. The 19th century was a period of plagues and panics. Cholera, syphilis, tuberculosis. Eyeless could sweep through a household without warning. And Dracula, in many ways, is written like an infection. Pride spreads silently, through touch, through intimacy. His presence saps the strength of his victims. They grow pale, weak, sensitive to night. It mirrors the symptoms of wasting diseases that so haunted the era. Even as a rival, a foreigner from the East, traveling through ships and rats and shadows, plays on fears of contagion, of immigration, of the other arriving, uninvited. Because under the skin of this story lies a deep fear of outsiders. Dracula is exotic. He speaks with an accent. His customs are strange. His castle is far from the center of power, and yet he invades, not with armies, but with desire. He makes the pure, the English un-English, to a society obsessed with control. He is the perfect nightmare. Defies categories. He crosses boundaries. P is neither dead nor alive, neither beast nor man, neither fully foreign nor fully known. He is the embodiment of everything the Victorians tried to repress. Desire, illness, otherness, fluidity, and like any good repression, it returns again and again. Dracula does not merely haunt castles, he haunts the imagination. He is a reflection of cultural anxiety, and also a release valve for it. Store, people could tell themselves, again and again, to touch the edge of the forbidden, without ever fully naming it. A safe terror, wrapped in pages, a nightmare, whispering truths. Society wasn't ready to speak. Fragment-free. Who gets bitten? In the world of Dracula, not everyone is in equal danger. The vampire does not strike at random. He chooses, or perhaps more accurately, the story chooses. And who it chooses tells us everything. Consider Lucy Webb. She is young, beautiful, vibrant. She has 3 suitors, each of them eager to win her affection. She laughs easily, and she speaks her mind, not rudely, but without the heavy self-censorship expected of women in her era. Lucy is also the first to be bitten, not once, but again and again, across nights of growing weakness. She withers beneath the moonlight, and when she finally transforms, when she becomes something other, she is punished for it. She is no longer gentle. She becomes seductive, aggressive, hungry, a mother who threatens children, a woman who wants proof. And for this, she must be staked, silenced, returned to peace by men who loved her, and who now take it upon themselves to fix her. It's hard to miss the metaphor. Lucy does not survive because she steps too far outside the boundaries. She becomes too much, too radiant, too desiring, too to transform. Then there is Mina, who is loyal, proper, intelligent, and above all, self-controlled. She helps the men. She reads documents, types, letters, organizes thoughts. She is praised again and again for her modesty, her restraint, her usefulness. And although she, too, is bitten, she is spared. She resists. She endures. And in the end, she is rewarded. She lives. She becomes a mother. She continues on. Not as a vampire, but as a symbol of restored order. There's a quiet but unmistakable message in this. Those who maintain control, who stay within the lines drawn for them, may survive the darkness. Those who they become it. The novel does not merely describe the violence against these women. It rationalizes it, justifies it, cloaks it in tenderness. Even as Lucy is killed, her former lovers weep over her beauty, her purity, her memory. But the truth is, she is not killed for being evil. She is killed for changing. Dracula's victims are almost entirely women, and each time, the language hovers somewhere between danger and desire. The act is never only violent. It is intimate, erotic, violative, transformative, and always, beneath it all, the question of consent floats unanswered. Does Lucy ask for it? Does Mina resist? Does it matter? What the novel fears most may not be the vampire at all, but what happens when women respond to it, when they stop fearing and start participating. What does it mean? The story asks. When a woman wants freedom, wants touch, wants power, these questions do not resolve. They linger like teeth, just brushing the skin. Hack segment 4. The monster in the mirror. There's a detail, almost easy to overlook, that haunts the myth of Dracula. He casts no reflection. In the polished surface of a mirror, there is nothing. No trace of him, no shadow, no evidence, just emptiness, where a man should be. It's a supernatural quirk, yes, but it's also something deeper, because what is a reflection, really? A reflection is recognition, it's selfhood, it's confirmation. You are real, you exist, you can be seen. So, when Dracula casts no reflection, we might ask, is it because he has no soul, or because he has no self? And if there's no image looking back, does that make him more monstrous or more human? Perhaps the mirror refuses to reveal him because it was never meant to. Perhaps Dracula is not a creature to be seen clearly, but felt, projected, imagined, designed. In that way, he is not a character, he is a metaphor, a vessel for the things we hide. Poor, the cravings we deny, the instincts we fear. Peas is the suppressed self, stripped of pretense, and in that space between horror and magnetism, something unsettling blooms. Because if Dracula has no reflection, why does he feel so familiar? He attempts, not just with death, but with something far more seductive, the loss of control, the surrender of will, the vanishing of duty, responsibility, even time. In his presence, everything glows, pleasure and pain, fear and longing, life and death. He offers release, and release is terrifying. The vampire myth endures not simply because we fear being hunted, but because, secretly, some part of us wonders what it would be like to stop running, to give in, to fall, and that is the final unease. Dracula does not represent a foreign monster. He is not only an invader or an outsider, he is the part of ourselves. We dare not name the part that wants too much, the part that hungers, the part that stares into the mirror and waits for something else to look back. Conclusion. So now, as we drift away from the candlelit corridors of castles and the echoing chambers of the Victorian mind, let us return gently to ourselves, to the soft hush of the present moment, to the comfort of bedsheets and the steady breath of sleep. We have walked tonight through shadows, not the kind that chase, but the kind that whisper. We have explored a horror that is less about fangs and more about feeling. And perhaps that is the true endurance of Dracula. He is not a villain in a cloak. He is a question, a reflection that does not appear, but is always waiting, waiting in books, in night thought. So let your mind settle now. Let the stories soften, like mist retreating at dawn. B, the vampire will wait. He always does. Good night.